I told you I'd come on
And welcome back to True Stories from a Real Private Eye. I'm Vinnie Coppola. I'm your host. As always, I got Lynn Lambdin, a real detective private eye from Atlanta, Georgia. And he is going to regale us with another tale of one of his assignments. And let me just say, without giving out any spoiler alerts, that I think I know what Lynn is going to talk about today. And I've heard about this and I'm excited to hear the full story. I heard a piece of it from a mutual friend of ours, Lynn, and I'm excited to hear the whole story. And I'm sure you guys are going to be excited as well. So thanks for being here. Good to see you again, Lynn.
Good to see you, Vinnie. I'm glad to be here. How's your day?
Oh, it was good. It was good.
You enjoying this cold weather?
Oh man, it's freezing here. The wind chill factor was what it made it like 16 degrees.
Yeah, no, it's freezing. Well, I'll tell you on the day this happened, it was kind of a cold day, but leading up to it, this was February, probably 98, 99. I'd been in the business about 3 years, and I'd left the firm I was with shortly after the other story. The other firm kind of went downhill, and I left, and I started working for my professor that I had in school. Really good guy.
Let me ask you something. Wait a second. Let me ask you something. You say you were working for a firm. Now, is there like a booking agency that books out private eyes, like you like with a comedian? Like you go to a booking agency and they find you jobs at comedy clubs. Actors have agents that find them, auditions. Is it very similar with the private eye?
No, back then, this guy who owned this PI firm, he came to the school and recruited me out of the school, and his firm kind of went downhill, and I think it was kind of an intentional thing because he went on to become a police officer. He was a really nice guy and a good guy, and I learned a little bit from him, but I wasn't with him long enough to learn a lot.
When you say firm, you're talking about a lawyer. Correct?
No, he was a PI, and he had a courier firm and a PI firm. He did courier work and PI work, and
he hired extra private eyes to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when his firm kind of, ended, I went with the instructor from where I went to school, and he was getting ready to go to school to become an attorney himself. Really good guy. His name's Tom Salata. He's an attorney now here in Georgia in this area, and he's really good man. I learned so much from him. He taught me so much, and the deal that we had is I would work on cases that he needed me to work on while he was in school, going to law school, and I had to solicit my own business. Well, he was kind enough to let me have one of his attorneys that he was working for at the time because he didn't have time to do it. And that attorney was Scott Manji. And Scott Manji is a wonderful man.
From Manji and Associates?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. It's a famous firm.
And when I started with Scott Manji, he had just got out of law school and done his apprenticeship and opened his office. And we were both very young in the industry. And he was, Scott Manji is one of the best people you'll ever meet in your life. He's salt of the earth.
Okay.
And I still work for him to this day.
Nice.
Very first attorney I ever went to work for, still work for him. Good man. I wouldn't trade him for nothing. Good friend. I can call him on his cell phone day or night. He'll always answer, or he'll always return my call within 10 or 15 minutes. Good man. I love him to death. He's like a brother to me.
So that's a quick advertisement for those of you that need an attorney. Scott Manji is the guy to call right there.
Or if you need a divorce attorney, call Tom Salata because he's one of the better ones of those. So
okay, so there you go.
And the reason I tell you that is because Scott was working with a workman's comp attorney,
okay,
and Jonathan Rolnick, and John. They wasn't in the same office, but John was working with, and he rented a space downtown Atlanta, in a high rise, and there was another guy in the office down there that worked for this big firm, and this guy was a high powered lawyer, and he worked for a really big firm, and he took big cases. I mean, big cases. And Jonathan introduced me to him because he had a very high profile case with a very international musician, and one of the attorneys in the office had been trying to serve this international star with a subpoena. This international star he's a singer, has many hits out from the late 70s all the way through today. You can still hear him on the radio. Big star.
Let me just for you out there listening, this is an international superstar. I know the guy that he's talking about now, because for legal reasons or whatever that we don't have the answers for, we're not going to say his name, but you know him, you've heard of him, you've seen his videos, you've seen his movies. This is what I would probably say one of the top 5 biggest recording artists in the world. Wouldn't you say, Lynn?
I would say so. Yeah. Has been for many years.
Many years.
Well, he wasn't being sued, but a friend of his was being sued for sexual harassment. We'll get to that in a second. So this very high profile attorney who worked in this firm, he had 2 PIs before me try to serve this person and couldn't.
Serve this superstar guy
with a subpoena, because this superstar guy had evidence that would not necessarily prove our case, but he didn't want to come to court and bring the evidence, so it would force a settlement.
Right.
So so he says, so John Ronick told this attorney, he said, use my guy, Lynn. He'll get it served for you. I'd only been in business about 3-4 years. I'd learned a little bit, I'd learned enough to BS my way through about anything. So
how many guys before he called you?
2
you think they went through? Okay, 2.
So he told me it was 2. Okay. He had a guy do it and he had a girl do it.
Okay.
And both of them done the same thing. And when he told them, you can't go to this guy's house and serve him, his entourage will not let you get close to him. And both of them ran right to his house and tried to serve him.
Okay.
Couldn't do it. He has a house here. He has a house in LA. He has a house in London. He has a house in Paris. He has houses everywhere.
Yeah.
So they went to his house here in Atlanta every time he was here. Yeah. So I go down, I pick up the subpoena. This was about 2 months before I got him served. Okay. About once a week, this attorney would call me and say, did you get him served? And I'm sweating. No, I haven't got him served. Well, what's your plan? Just bear with me. I got it. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So I would go to this guy's residence and I would stake it out. And I was trying to get a pattern.
Right.
Just trying to watch and just figure out a pattern. So when the pattern developed, I could just insert myself in this pattern somehow and serve him.
Right.
So
now let me ask you something, Lynn. You're putting in all these hours. Are you getting paid for these hours? Staking out his house and all that stuff?
Yes. Yeah, that was the deal. I was paid by the hour instead of by the serve.
Okay, nice.
So I got to thinking, I'm sitting around one day and I'm thinking, this is not getting anywhere. I'm not getting anywhere with this. So I said, wonder if he's going to be in concert. So I pull up his concert schedule, and sure enough, he's in concert at the Fox Theater.
Okay.
In February. Wasn't a real friendly February. It's kind of cold and stuff. So I go to the sheriff's office. I didn't go to the sheriff's office. When I met with this attorney said that be careful, because his attorney out of New York has already said that if anybody gets close to him in uniform or no uniform, they're going to get the shit kicked out of them. That was their exact words. I took it as a personal challenge. So
yeah, I bet.
So the day of the concert, I'm thinking, do I buy a ticket and go in and try to serve him on stage? I'll take the chance of getting the shit kicked out of me,
So your first plan was to go to the concert and just walk on stage and serve them. That was your first plan.
Well, I'd been to the Fox Theater before, and it was to try to get up close to the stage and just say, "Hey," and toss it up to him.
Yeah,
Because all you have to do is give them notice.
yeah,
You don't have to take it. I just have to give you notice.
yeah,
And I thought, well, I'd have a lot of witnesses. He couldn't deny it.
right, yeah,
So, and I got to thinking, well, may not be able to get up to that stage, and then after he's done with his concert here, he's going to be all over the country, and I'll never have this is going to be my last chance for a while.
right. Till he comes back. Yeah,
Yeah. So I got to thinking, and I said, well, I'm going to go down to the sheriff's department and talk to the sheriff. So I go down to the sheriff's department, and I'm pleading my case with the sheriff. I'm not getting anywhere. And I said,
what are you trying to sell him on? What are you trying to sell the sheriff on?
I'm trying to sell the sheriff on helping me get into this building.
Okay, without a ticket, or
and to get backstage.
okay,
And I'm not, the sheriff isn't biting. He's just like, well, that's your problem.
yeah,
And I said, well, I said his attorney has already laid out the threats, and he said that anybody that got near him, they were going to get their asses whipped in uniform or no uniform.
yeah.
And the sheriff said, wait a minute. You're telling me that his attorney's going to whip my men? I said, that's what he said.
Nice.
He said, wait a minute. Wait right there. He goes in the back. He comes back and he says, go to the Fox Theater, wait out front.
Yeah,
And see, I had a suit and tie,
yeah,
because I wanted to look professional.
right.
And I'm standing outside. He goes, go to the Fox Theater, stand outside. And he goes, there'll be two men meet you out there. He said, you'll recognize them.
Yeah.
He said, the car will be tilted a little bit to the right. I'm thinking, a little bit to the right? What do you mean?
Yeah,
He said, you'll recognize them.
yeah.
So I'm standing outside the Fox Theater, and here come a sheriff's car pulling up, and I swear it looked like it was tilted to the right.
Really?
And they were two sheriff's deputies got out of the car, and we will call them country boys.
Yeah.
One of them, we'll call him Bubba.
Okay.
He was about 6'8", weighed about 450 pounds, and that's why the car tilted to the right.
Right.
And he opens his car door and he kicks it open and puts his hand on top. He gets out.
Yeah.
And then the driver gets out, and he's about 5'8", weighed about 150 pounds soaking wet,
Right.
and he's all mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, his mouth's going 100 miles an hour.
Really?
And we'll call him, I don't know, call him Ted.
Ted. Okay.
I call him just Ted, just
Yeah.
and Bubba didn't say a word.
Yeah.
Just he reached out and shook my hand.
Yeah.
And I swear his hand was the biggest hand I've ever seen in my life.
Right. I bet.
And I shook Ted's hand, and I told him what we was going to do. And Ted looked at me and he said, "Don't open your mouth." He said, "Don't say a word." And he said, "If they ask us to leave, it's private property. We have to leave."
Right.
He said, "We can't stay. We have to leave."
Yeah.
I said, "I understand that." I said, "I get it."
Yeah.
I said, "I know the private property laws." And we walk around to the back door, and Ted takes that big long flashlight out of his belt. He bangs on that door, and here comes this little skinny guy to the door. He opens the door, and he was flaming. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And he
Not that there's anything wrong.
And Ted said, "We're here to see Mr. So-and-so." And he said, the big superstar. And he said,
okay,
and we're here to see Mr. Superstar. And
Right,
and he said, "You can't come in." And Bubba just walks through the door. He ducks and walks through the door, and we follow him in. And this little guy's trying to tell us we can't come in.
Yeah.
So we're standing here, and Ted is just going 100 miles an hour telling him why we're going to see Mr. Superstar.
Yeah.
And I mean, this goes on for 10 minutes or so.
And Bubba's still walking.
No, Bubba's, we're just standing there.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because we didn't know where he was at.
Okay.
He was in a dressing room somewhere. We just didn't know where.
Okay.
And so Ted.
Hey, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something then. Are Ted and Bubba in their deputy uniform?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And Ted.
So this guy, this flaming guy, he knows that the cops are there.
He knows that the sheriff is there.
Sheriff is there. Okay. Okay.
And they know why we're there. They know why we're looking for him.
Yeah.
Now here's the backstory.
Yeah.
This guy shopped at a certain store in town.
The superstar.
The superstar shopped at a certain store in town.
Okay.
And he started dating one of the clerks at the store.
Okay.
Well, the clerk at the store, as a joke, bought him a 4-foot gold-plated erect penis.
Okay.
And the manager of that particular store started chasing women around the store. So one of the women filed a sexual harassment lawsuit.
Okay.
We wanted the subpoena. We wanted the penis. That's why we were serving the subpoena.
Right.
Well, the superstar, just imagine the superstar showing up in his limousine and getting out at the federal court at the Richard B. Russell building downtown with a 4-foot gold erect penis.
Right. So there was the problem. Right.
So there lies the problem. So we wanted this gold erect penis so that we could not prosecute, but basically we thought if we could get the subpoena served that they would settle the case so that he wouldn't have to come to court.
Yeah. That's
because he spent about the theory was he spent about $1 million a year at this particular store.
Okay.
So it would be better for them to pay this young lady off $300,000 or $400,000 than to lose his business. So when he got the subpoena, we'll just pay you off, get you out of her hair. That was the theory.
Okay.
So
and now the money is got to be paid from the store owner, right?
Or the insurance company would have typically taken care of it, but
right.
But we don't care where the money come from.
Okay, but before any of that can happen, we need to kind of pressure the superstar into appearing in court with this piece of evidence, which he does not want to do.
By any circumstances, he doesn't want to do.
So by giving him the subpoena, we put all this in motion.
By giving him the subpoena, we put all this in motion, and that's why he was.
And the course gets and the case gets settled.
That's our hope.
Okay, got it.
So it's one of those cases where the penis wasn't really needed,
right?
But the pressure was.
Got it. Okay, now I got it. Right.
Yeah, you didn't really need it, but the pressure was needed.
Yes,
because
so this was a tactic devised by the lawyers.
Yes,
oh, I know what we need to do.
Yes.
Okay, and now they can't get him. They can't get him. Well, let's call Lynn. And here comes Lynn, and I love it. Okay.
So here we are, and Ted's standing here arguing with this little guy, and he's he's got his hands on his hips, and he's just wiggling and grinning because he thinks he's won the battle. And
the guy that came to the door,
okay. He thinks that he's won. He thinks that we're not going to get to see Mr. Superstar.
Okay, let's call him Johnny Flame.
Johnny Flame. Okay. So Ted reaches over and he says, he keys his microphone and he says, I need a bus at the Fox Theater. And then he looks around and he goes, make that 2 buses. We got a lot of them we're going to have to take downtown. And this little kid, he couldn't have been more than 25, 26 years old. His face dropped and he turned about 3 shades of white. And he goes, Mr. Superstar, we'll see you now.
Nice.
Because he thought that everybody there was going to go to jail and there was going to be no concert.
Right.
So he said, you see those elevators over there? He said, go over there and press number 3 and go to the 3rd floor and turn left and he's right there.
Okay.
So we go over to the elevator and there's 2 big dudes standing there. 2 big muscle heads.
Bigger
you
than
know
Bubba?
they're standing there with their chests is all bowed out, and you know,
Okay.
and they won't move.
Right.
They're just standing there.
Yeah.
Bubba reaches out and grabs the second one, and both of them are within his arms, and he just
Yeah.
slams them against the wall,
Both of them together?
both of them together, and he pushes the number three, and they wouldn't even move. He just looks over at them. And this is not a muscle bound guy. This is just a corn fed big old man,
Big
and
old
his
boy.
hands. I'm telling you, he could palm 2 basketballs. His hands were huge, and his
Okay.
arms was as big as my legs.
Okay.
And he just looked over at him.
Yeah.
And Ted never shut his mouth. He said, you guys don't want to move. You don't want to mess with him.
Yeah.
You don't want to you don't want to move.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's Ted's just basically begging them to move.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So we get on the elevator, we go up to the 3rd floor, and we walk in, and Mr. Superstar is sitting there, and he's one of the nicest men you'll ever meet in your life.
Yeah.
He shook
That's
all
cool.
three. He shook all three of us his hand,
Yeah.
and he thanked us, and we left. We gave him the subpoena,
Yeah.
and we left. And last I heard, the case settled. They did. I heard. Now I'm not sure, but his attorney asked for the subpoena to be quashed, meaning that he didn't have to. The subpoena was no good. I don't know if that happened or not, because once that I served it, I did my job, and I was as happy as I could be.
Right.
Because I'd done something that other people had tried and couldn't get it done. I was an unknown. Nobody knew who I was.
Right.
And that put me on the map. That made my business. You have to understand, my first full year in business, I made $7,600.
Wow.
That's all I made.
Yeah.
So as you know, the reason that I know you is I moonlighted as a bartender.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could survive.
Right. We met at the Punchline, the comedy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the only way that I could survive was having a night job to support my day job, because I just couldn't make any money at it.
Right.
Well, once that I served him, this attorney, being as high powered as he was, told everybody.
Yeah.
And here it is. That happened in like February, I think it was 98. And here we are in 2025. And I got a call as late as probably 23 going, "You're the guy that served Mr. Superstar."
Right. Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, that was me."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that put me on the map, and that made me I could start supporting myself off of this business.
Yeah. Because you had a name. You had a name, and as a guy who gets things done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just luck.
It kind of reminds me of and forgive the analogy, but like the mafia, like if you're in the mafia, you do like, well, if you do this, you're going to get straightened out, you're going to become a made guy,
Yeah.
And whatever act it is, well, that was yours, buddy. That's what made you. And that's great.
And from that, and I got so many calls after that for years and years and years of serving subpoenas that nobody else could serve, that everybody had tried, and then they come to me.
Yeah.
So fast forward about 6 or 8 months.
After this incident,
we had a dispute, and somebody swore out a warrant for my arrest.
Who did you have a dispute with? Oh, you just got a dispute.
Yeah, well, I've had several people. I've been arrested several times in my line of business because people will lie and say that anything to try to keep from appearing on a subpoena. So
Got it.
Somebody swore out a warrant for my arrest, and we went in front of a judge, and the judge says, "Well, there's probable cause to have a hearing, but I'm going to let you turn yourself in and sign yourself out on bond." So the order from the judge is I was to go down to the jailhouse. They take my picture, they take my fingerprints, and I sign the bond, and then I go home. Well, they put me in a jail cell, and then they started looking for Lynn Lambdin because the idiot didn't know my first real name. I go by my middle name.
Right.
So they start looking for me in the women's cell, and they couldn't find me. So they thought
because Lynn, Lynn, right? Yeah.
So they thought they had lost the prisoner.
Yeah.
Well, Ted, this deputy that I had worked with 6 months earlier,
On the Superstar case.
Superstar case, comes in and asks them what all the commotion was about, and they told him that they had lost Lynn Lambdin.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find her.
Yeah.
And Ted said, "No wonder you can't find her. It's a man. He's in the men's cell."
Yeah.
And I sat in there for about, I guess, 7 or 8 hours because they couldn't find this woman, and they was in a panic because they thought they had lost this female prisoner.
Right.
And when Ted got there, he told them he said, "No, this is not a woman. This is a man."
Yeah. Yeah.
I know him. He's a man.
Yeah. I worked with him.
So he come and got me, and we talked for a good 30 minutes. And I guess it was my girlfriend at the time. It's my wife now.
Yeah.
And she was waiting on me out in the car because it was supposed to be a half-hour thing. And she called
every out there all that time.
Oh yeah, and she called every attorney in my phone, asking them why they were holding me if they could come and get me out of jail.
Yeah, right.
She was scared to death. She had no idea what happened.
Right, right.
Because she was in court when the judge said, "You'll just be in and out. All you got to do is just go down, turn yourself in. They'll take your pictures, they'll take your fingerprints, and they'll send you on your way."
Yeah.
And then when we go to court, the judge threw it out because they said, "Well, you got no evidence against this man. This is made up charges," and they threw it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Which happens about every time. I'll tell you those stories later about how it happens in Gwinnett County. It happened in Fulton County. It's happened in Fulton County twice now. So it's happened so many times. It's just not even. I mean, people try to lie and say, you did this, you didn't serve me, you tried to run over me with your car. They try everything in the world not to turn over those subpoenas. But I understand because the ones that do that have a lot at stake. One guy was looking at prison time for stealing millions of dollars. So I guess I would lie too because I wouldn't want to turn those evidence over. Right.
Holy cow. Plus, he threw out the whole thing because you did 7 hours. You did your time.
Well, no, that's not why they threw it out. They threw it out because they didn't have any evidence.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Man.
This is amazing, Lynn. I finally got the whole story. I mean, a mutual friend of ours told me that you were able to serve the Superstar when no one else could. And I was like, oh, man, that must be an amazing story. Here it is. I finally got it. Several years. Well, wow, it's almost like 2 decades later. I finally got the whole story. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. That's how I got him. And the only reason that I got him is because his attorney opened his mouth and said, they will get their ass whipped. Yeah, if you wouldn't have said that, I would have never got in.
Yeah, and that sheriff's like, well, he's going to beat up my boys.
and the sad part about it is, Vinnie, that his security was so weak and so uninformed that all they had to say was, "This is private property. You can't come in," and shut the door. And we could have never went in.
Yeah.
Never went in.
Yeah.
That's how bad his security was.
Right. Yeah.
And, I wrote him letters for, I don't know, a year and a half telling him I would like to help him straighten out and strengthen his security. And, I never could get an answer back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And I wrote his attorney, and the attorney that I worked for communicated that to his attorney. And they never would. They wasn't interested in straightening it out. Ain't that amazing?
Well, I bet you. Yeah, I bet you Johnny Flame got fired.
I doubt it.
And what Superstar should have done was hired Ted and Bubba and got rid of those other mooks.
Hired Lynn to consult and hired
at the very least. Holy cow.
At the very least, yeah. Because it would have been very simple to keep anybody away from somebody like that. I mean, it's not. it's not that hard. But
Well,
since they never told me to leave private property, the
Yeah.
subpoena was good.
right. Yeah. Amazing
So
how simple how simple that is. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing how simple that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Holy cow, Lynn, this was so much fun for me. I finally got the full story. I love it. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed that, please tune in. Lynn has 30 plus years in the business. We're going to hear all kinds of stories like this. We're going to hear scary ones, funny ones.
Next week, Vinnie, I'll tell you a scary one that I thought I was going to die. I really thought that my life was over at about probably about 27 years old. I thought I was a dead man.
Holy cow. All right. So we got something to look forward to. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, on your favorite podcast platform. Leave us a review. That would really help us out. If you enjoy stand-up comedy and stupid videos, check me out. I'm Vinnie Coppola. You can find all my links to all my social media at my website. It's www.vinnie.com. That's Vinnie.com. Case number 2 is in the books, Lynn. It was great. What a great story. So much fun.
I enjoy it, Vinnie.
Me too, man. This is a lot of fun for me, and I hope you guys are having as much fun as Lynn and I. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Vinnie.